Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Witch's Craft. We are at episode 19, if you guys can believe that.
Hard to believe.
So it is hard to believe. We've already gone through 19 weeks of this, 19 episodes, and we just keep on going. So
Yep.
um, I am
Hello.
joined one more time by
Hello.
our wonderful token Baba Yaga type, formerly known as our Garage Goblin. And also Gwen. Gwen was just telling us that she just finished up with the psychic fair. How did that go?
It went really, really well. It's kind of it's at a pretty good place where everybody sort of does okay, and I think everybody comes out happy. So it always makes me happy. And we had this time we had kind of a special guest kind of hanging out at the counter, and that was Guy Coggins, who invented the Coggins camera, which you all know as an Aura camera, but if you look at it, it is literally called a Coggins camera. And so what Guy has been working on is a little crystal programming device that kind of tunes something to your aura, kind of shoots it up with lasers. Anyway, it's fascinating. It definitely has some tweaks that are needed, but we got to play with it for the day, and it's a prototype. And we had a previous rendition of the prototype in for just a couple of days. Well, about no, actually about a month, a few maybe 6 months ago. So this is rendition number 2, and it's getting fancier every time I see it. So we'll see what happens. Might wind up with a copy of that in my store. Wouldn't that be cool?
Awesome. Yeah, that would be pretty amazing. So,
It is. It is. So
um, all right. Well, we've also got some other stuff going on, but really wanted to touch on what's going to be happening with the next few weeks, with the next few episodes.
yep.
This is going to be part of a um 3 chapter arc. So
hmm
I wanted to talk about something that is pretty prevalent these days, and that is how we as witches are presented in culture, how we have been presented in culture, how we've been misrepresented. Um, so I wanted to go with something that was going to be a little lighter. Um, and so part one for tonight is going to be um, witches across literature. So I mean that's basically how we've kind of kept our ways and our um, our culture going, by the written word, but also that's how stories have been passed on, and that's how the tradition keeps going.
Mhm.
Um, so I wanted to cover that for tonight. Next week is going to be pretty interesting in that I don't think I've ever seen anything, um, at least not recorded in a stream or a podcast or anything, talking about witchcraft in music. So
Oh,
you've got you've got so many different artists, throughout time, and of course some periods more it's more prevalent than others. But you've got lyrics, you've got subliminal messages, you've got groups that were uh, openly pagan, you've got groups that were openly satanic, the ones that were actually putting the stuff into lyrics, but people couldn't quite pick up on it right away. Then you have the other ones that were underground that were just absolute flat out, this is who we are. So
mhm.
um so we wanted to touch on that, and um how it continues in music, and who are our pagan brethren, and our chosen family that's actually still creating music for us.
Mhm.
And I mean, in our circle, we have an amazing group of people that actually do that for us.
Yeah,
So,
there's
um,
a lot of oh, there's probably if you think about it, in creative circles, there's probably a higher number of practitioners
yeah,
than in other circles.
right, right.
You know.
Um, So that'll be the topic for next week. Next
Mhm.
week will be the musical one. Um, and then part three will be uh, kind of a continuation of this tonight's, but rather than working in literature, we're going to look at how witchcraft has been portrayed on screen. So movies, TV shows, musicals, all of that, and across different genres, because you have different genres in film that still involves some kind of witchcraft, whether it's in a comedy, more
All the time,
always it's in
especially
horror.
this time of year.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be our three-part um, arc or three-part section. So so today, like I said, um, we wanted to go over what uh, archetypes there are. Like, how are these iconic characters representative of actual magic, and how much of the real um, practice actually gets put into these stories, into these characters. And yeah, we're gonna talk on some of them that have kind of transitioned from from page to screen. But also I wanted to talk about like where these images come from. For example, I mean, society tells us what witches are supposed to look like. You see it every Halloween. Okay, everybody's got the pointy hat. There's always the broom. There's always
And you
uh,
got to go to the Wizard of Oz for that.
exactly. Um, you know, well, yes, the green skin. I thankfully have not gone
You look
any.
a little green, Joe. A little green around the gills.
Well,
They're
I
here.
mean, that's for other reasons, but but yeah. Um,
Oh
so
no. Yeah.
yeah. So we have these stereotypes of what we look like. So wanted to kind of touch base on where this actually like really came from. So I mean, we've already kind of touched on that. The pointy hat, the green skin, the preferred method of transportation, unless you're Baba Yaga, it's always going to be a broom for some reason. Um, Baba Yaga, she travels around in her cauldron, I believe.
Hey,
Um,
you leave my chicken house alone, okay?
or she has a mobile home. It's a
Speaking
chicken hut. Yes.
speaking from the other side, you
Mhm.
know, kind of the voice that comes in. Yeah, it's
Right.
we know Baba Yaga is like on the other side of a
Hmm.
little barrier there, so you can't really see Baba Yaga today. So far,
Right.
yeah.
That's
Um.
okay.
Oh,
So she says,
that's we have her we have her on call. Trust me.
"Hmm, hmm,
Um. So
be good
uh,
kids,
the other
good."
yeah. So the other characteristics which you kind of pick up on with the different stories is that the witch is an outsider,
I thought it was
whether by
cheese.
choice,
I thought the moon
whether
was
whether it be
cheese.
by choice or against her wills. She can
Mm.
be outcast, or I mean, literally at this point in time in our timeline, living out there off the grid in the middle of the woods as this uh you know crone or this like wild man, it's really sounding pretty damn good. So
Mhm,
that could be the witch as an outsider by choice.
mhm.
um so there's always the magical powers, of course. They can fly, we can cast spells, shapeshift, or transform others. Again, a lot of the stuff, really wish we could do that. I mean,
God,
if
wouldn't
people
it be cool?
could fly, uh, there'd be so much less trouble with traffic getting to work.
Oh, I don't
Which
know.
would be a horrible thing.
I think we just collide up there like very badly behaved birds, which I have seen collide in my living room before. I have seen my birds
Uh,
do that weird little thing, and then one lands.
That's true,
They're
but
not coordinated necessarily.
I'd like to think that the rules of flying would be the same as the rules of driving, and that's don't fly drunk, please.
Um,
Pretty
no.
sure, yeah, pretty sure that
Yeah,
that might
I mean, you earned your title there, Joe. Tequila Joe. Just
I'm
pointing
just saying,
just
That is
pointing
true.
out.
there's going to be lanes, and there is going to be one designated called Vroom on your broom, and you have to have you plus a familiar in order for you to go stay in that lane.
Oh,
And then capitalism will cash in on that, and it'll become Uber flights. So,
yeah.
um,
Well, that's going to happen. We got Jovi here for that.
oh, yeah. So casting spells, yes. Shape shifting, sometimes. I've been accused of being a shapeshifter. I honestly, or a skinwalker, I guess you could say, if you really want to play around with that
Okay.
that
Yeah,
category.
skinwalkers and shapeshifters are pretty much the same thing on
Well,
level.
eh,
There's a lot of crossover lore on that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or transforming others. How many have actually tried to transform that orange buffoon over in the White House? I'm
I
pretty
was
sure
thinking
there's been
that.
some
Thinking that.
somebody has probably tried. They went for an orangutan, and that it's
They came
just
close.
it came close, exactly. So it didn't
I'm
quite
thinking right
work.
now there's a gypsy curse on him that says thinner
Mm,
because he's starting to
okay,
look um
so
he's starting to look thinner but not very healthy.
true.
Remember the movie Thinner? That was about a
Yes,
gypsy witch. Speaking of
very
pop,
good. Yeah. And that actually kind of ties into to the next characteristic is that this person uses this knowledge to exert her will on the world. So
Mhm.
in the case of Thinner, um, and I vaguely remember, but it's like, okay, as a point of exacting revenge for something, it's like, okay, you're going to become so thin. So there's that. And for some reason, and I hate this one, uh, the witch is supposed to be not conventionally attractive. What
Or
that is really
extremely
beautiful,
attractive,
right? Um,
unusually so,
right,
kind of like a vampire. There's a
right.
crossover too.
So she can also be incredibly vain and obsessed with making herself beautiful, and that's where you have legends about uh, uh, icons such as Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess, and she was kind of um the counterpart to Dracula, where it's like,
There's some truth to that she bathed in the blood of
right,
maidens, and not to say that it worked, but that is one of the that's one of there's two uh, kind of myths about that. One is that she was a vampire, and Borgia,
right,
that was Lucretia Borgia, and the other that she was a witch. Now, because vampires are probably not necessarily a reality, and at least I haven't met one. It probably really was more that she was a witch, and she probably did do some of that because she probably thought it would help.
yeah.
Obviously, eventually she was, in fact, I think she was put to death. I think they rose up against her. Am I
I
right
think
about
I
that? So
think you're
I'd
right.
have to look that up.
Right.
Token Baba Yaga could probably do a quick little research on that and keep us on track if
Right.
she were to do that, if Baba Yaga was willing.
So, while we have that, uh, there's the other characteristic that this person is almost always unmarried
Hmm.
and hates children. In fact,
Okay, I understand that, but only when they're badly behaved.
female reproduction has always been a part of the demonization of witches.
Hmm.
So she's either past the point of being able to reproduce, or she is hypersexual yet child free. So she's also more
Oh,
than
well,
willing
that's my
to
problem. I'm kidding.
hear them. Uh,
Yeah.
she's also, I'm sorry, harm them. And I'm sorry, these interruptions are kind of throwing me off a little bit.
I'm working on it.
So once again, so she's not able to reproduce, or she's hypersexual, yet child free. She's also more than willing to harm children. So you take one of our other prime examples of witches in literature, which is Lady Macbeth.
Okay.
Although she isn't technically a witch, she could be seen as a potential candidate for that. She's obsessed with gaining power. She is childless. She is sexually aggressive. At one point, even suggesting that she would, in fact, kill a child. The fact that she
Oh,
doesn't follow through with it, though,
Yeah.
is probably the only reason that she dodged that bullet of actually being labeled as such. So, um, okay, Gwen, you had some
I
thoughts.
had some, and I thought about talking. I'm glad that you actually talked about Lady Macbeth, because that was something, one of the characters from from Shakespeare that comes out as a witch. And there's a number, you can go back. There's like series, and there's a lot of historical witches through literature. But I was kind of a little more thinking kind of a little more recently. For instance, we have The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe,
Mhm.
which the one of the villains is a witch. Now the allegory is that she turns everybody to ice, right? That's and the lion is really, and God, what was his name that wrote that? C.S. Lewis was actually very, very
Mhm.
Christian religion, and so
Yep.
the lion represents Jesus
Mhm.
and all of that. And so that character is, kind of stops her, and you can't really kill him, and he resurrects, right? And
Mhm.
at one point in the book. Um, but the story is she's a witch, and she lures children through a closet. So that's kind of your typical, not particularly good witch,
Mhm.
and she turns people to ice, and she makes it always winter but never Christmas, and she's cruel, and she turns people into stone. And one of the things about turning people to stone, as I was mentioning, there was the cave, the one where the witches are in a cave, right? They think the water that's turning the calcified water, that's running through, is turning different things to stone.
Mhm.
They didn't realize it for centuries what the process was really chemical. And so
Mhm.
there's a little bit of that, that turning her enemies into stone statues, that might be, that little piece might come from that legend, because C.S. Lewis might have known about that legend, because it's a European cave, I believe. Anyway, so she has to, we all of the characters have to overcome this evil. And then another evil witch is, and actually there's a number of evil witches in the Grimm fairy tales. Pick a tale, right?
Mhm.
And so if you think about that, there's the Hansel and Gretel. Well, what happens again? And it's kind of loosely maybe Baba Yaga, right?
Mhm.
Taking kids out and eating the kids, and it's a little gingerbread house. Let's eat you. She fattens them up, and then she eats them. But then on the
Yep.
other side, you have two witches in the Wizard of Oz, and one of them is Glinda the Good Witch. She's actually, the original novel was The Good Witch of the South, not the North, but in the movie, it becomes the North. And she's wise and kind, and she's very benevolent. And
Mhm.
then you have and you have the evil Green Witch that that has goes after the ruby slippers, and eventually those take Dorothy home. And what's interesting about that is even though it's very, very popular as a witch movie, as a movie about that, it was actually a political satire. And you forget that it was actually political satire, which is why I picked it, because You don't realize.
Shoes were originally silver, meant to go show the silver standard.
Yep, the road was paved with gold, and I mean there's a lot of interesting archetypes in it which play through, but it's also very much it's very much a political satire. And one of the things when you go and research it, it literally, the fact that it's political satire, that it was really in that genre, it doesn't come up anymore. But we knew that growing up. I knew that growing up. And here it is, like you research it now and AI doesn't even see it. You know, you go like, oh, come on, bring that up. And it just doesn't. So, and it had to do with what was happening in the 30s, you know, roads paved with gold, and, you know, who's right and who's wrong. And if you really look it up as a political satire, it's going to come up. And I encourage people to look at that. But when you go back to, for instance, when you go back to the C.S. Lewis stuff, you find that that there's a lot of control over nature in all of these, where, you know, someone like me could go, you should be an ice statue or a stone statue, where of course, you know, what we really do is we don't do those things. We usually, you know, try to herbal heal people, but there's this stereotype that persists. And a child eating hag is, you know, another stereotype that persists. And it's like, there's a hearth and a kitchen in these things, where that, you know, we're luring you into our little hearth and so on. In reality, most of us that are practitioners see the hearth and the kitchen as a place to heal. And because Christianity really favors not trying to have any control over the element, especially not allowing women to have control, and realistically, women were often seen as witches. Men were accepted into the clergy and women weren't, and so on. So if we did anything different, or we tried to heal anybody, we were seen as being evil. If a cow died in a field, you know, down from us, then, you know, the healer got the blame, because somehow your problems with whatever problems you had, mold in your crops, or, you know, what's the one that is like the dust, the anthrax or whatever, that was our fault. You know, if people died of the plague, a witch brought it to town. Never mind that, you know, maybe if you had just kept your area clean, you might not have those fleas. So if women were doing things that were healing, and we somehow managed to clean our space and not have the problems in the space, or just kind of recognizing that something was good for healing, then we were the ones that were getting the blame. And you want to look for a scapegoat, find your local town healer. So one of the sad things is this is one of the reasons that that a lot of healing, you know, cures and stuff were lost over time. And, you know, and if you look at there are a few mainstream religions, such as Christian Scientists and so on, that still don't believe in taking their kids to the doctor. And those kids occasionally get taken away by Child Protective Services, because they get sick and they're not taking them to the doctor, and the kid gets on death's door, and, you know, somebody steps in, which I suppose they should.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, it's that is true, that, you know, typically, and even if it wasn't the healer, it was always going to be that one woman who was slightly deviant and not you know, nonconformist is what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That was always the one.
And Glenda was beautiful. Glenda the Good Witch was beautiful. And the one who was very, very powerful was green and not beautiful. And Hansel and Gretel want to go stay in the, you know, woods, and the old witch was fattening them up, you know, and she was a hag, you know, and maybe she was a cannibal. I mean, cannibals do exist sometimes, but you would think that it probably it's more of a I think that's more of a Baba Yaga actually
Mhm.
comparison. So we crop up in literature all over the place.
Mhm. There's
Not
and
good.
I'll talk about it 2 weeks from now when we do the film section of this. Um, there is an absolutely amazing movie out there. Some of you guys have probably seen it already, but it is called The Witch. So, and that's where you get that icon of the black goat. You got Black Phillip. Um,
Oh, I know. It's set back in the 1700s or something in Eastern
exactly,
US.
exactly.
I s-
Um,
that was actually pretty
yeah,
good. I liked it.
that was actually really good. But
Yeah.
uh, the point with that is that it's a perfect example of how when things go wrong, generally the head of the family is going to be, well, we're not praying hard enough. We're not, uh, we are meant to suffer. We are meant to go through this, but we are meant to like earn God's bounty and all of this.
Hmm.
And the poor daughter, who's the one who is um, doing the best as she can, she's the one getting blamed for everything. She's blamed for the disappearance of the youngest. She's
Hmm.
blamed for uh, the other one's getting sick. Um, really, really amazing film.
And didn't she
Highly
eventually just say,
recommend.
"The hell with you guys, I'll go off with Black Phillip" or something like that? Isn't that how that
What's that?
is it? Didn't she eventually just say, "The hell with you guys, I'll do what I want"? Wasn't that kind of the end of it? I can't
Um,
remember the end. I'll have to see it.
then,
See it again.
well, spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's to the point where it's like she's become so jaded that she decides to go ahead and fall into that. Like, okay, this is what you say that I am. This is what I will become. So, um, but it's a great film, great film. Um, but yeah, it just to touch one more time on the fact that that is exactly what it was like. It's like, okay, you have the one person who's not conforming to what religion says. That person is the one responsible for all of your experiences.
Hmm.
That's the way that it was. That's the way that it's been written, particularly for us. Um, looking back at the appearance of what this person is supposed to look like. I mean, you had the healers, you had you know, the woman in the woods, and I'm sorry, I have a cough drop right now. So, but anyways, you have the yeah, you have the one in the woods. She probably looked a little different than your average woman in society. Um, and then you have the iconic hats, uh, which hasn't really been definitely explained, but there are some theories as to where that actually came from. So next time you guys see this, Halloween, yeah, we're in the clearance aisle right now, in the stores. Um, okay, so to paraphrase Mark Twain, which I have a lot of beef with, but that's a whole other discussion. Um, the hat makes the witch. That was one of his thoughts, one of his sayings. Now, if we look at the desert of Western China, we find the witches of Subeshi. These were well preserved mummies that were discovered dating to about 4,000 years ago. Um, and these ancients were preserved with black belt conical hats, thought to have been used in relation to falconry, as one mummy was also found wearing a thick leather glove on one hand, perhaps to land a bird of prey. So now, here, even in this, you kind of have two little characteristics. You have the person wearing the hat, and you also have the person with that same person with a familiar. So,
Mm.
um, but the origins of the hats in connection with witchcraft are actually difficult to pinpoint. So, you have medieval depictions of witches, uh, and they often, they're nude or they're bareheaded or they have the long hair, mingling with like flames and smoke. Um, and then you have like woodcuts from the 1600s that occasionally outfitted spellcasters in common bonnets. Um, and it wasn't until the 1710s and 20s that in children's books in England, um, you had the first illustrations of supernatural tales with crones in peaked hats. Um, so you also had the tall golden conical hats embellished with star and moon symbols that were worn by priests in the Bronze Age to denote their special ability to read the stars. These early astronomers were thought to have magic powers and divinatory abilities, as they would use their skills to predict the weather. Um, and later on, that conical hat would change from a headpiece of honor to one of shame. But before I get into that, if you guys are not able to imagine what I'm talking about, I got the best example for you. Fantasia, the most iconic image of that, Mickey Mouse wearing that conical hat with the stars and the moon. That is exactly what we're talking about. So that is where this comes from. Um, or rather, that is why he's wearing it, because he is the sorcerer's apprentice. The sorcerer is the man who can do all of these things. This is an image of the priest in the Bronze Age. So that's what they were talking about. Now, at the point where it becomes something that's a symbol of honor to a symbol of uh, anything less than savory, is when it becomes something that's forced upon those who actually broke the law. They committed heresy or had religious beliefs and practices that went against the prevailing doctrine of the time. Um, they were forced to wear the paper conical hats of various colors. They were worn by criminals for public humiliation and punishment. Um, in fact, the origin of the dunce cap style is thought to come from the followers of a 13th century magician called John Duns Scotus, who believed humans act as a funnel for wisdom. So the tall conical hat would act as a receiver and focusing point for wisdom and drawing down power. So uh, if the conventional methods of teaching didn't straighten you out, then maybe, just maybe, divine intervention directly from the universe might help you to not be an idiot. So they would put this conical hat on you to draw power in. So that's where that comes from. Um, and uh, there's quite a few other ideas as to where this came from. Um,
Well, there's definitely some things I'd like to mention in that. The Welsh the
mhm,
Welsh women had very they were very conical, not to a point, but almost to a point with
mhm,
brim, and Welsh women were not typically super cooperative with Roman Catholics for quite a long time. Also in the middle age, in the medieval time, a lot of women had those very long, tall, pointed hats in the aristocracy,
mhm,
which if you there's actually the two pointed ones and so on that they borrowed for Snow White, right?
mhm,
Evil Queen. But those hats are very medieval, and then up through the Quaker period. Actually, some of the women in the Quaker period also had those. And one of the things that is subcultural in that is that there were those Salem witch trials, right, where they hung the women with the pointed hats, right, and they may well have left them on. And you think about how badly beaten some of those women were before they hung them. You don't know what color their skin might have been. Did we talk about that last week? Was that you and I having that
No,
conversation? Um,
not,
one of
not,
the one of the things that when we think about um, our witches' hags and where does that come from? When they would do witch trials, before the women would admit to, to being a witch, which of course they were probably not, especially not then, they would often torture them. They would leave them to rot in whatever cell they had, and torture them and do awful things and beat them, break their noses. Things would crawl on them, and they would be in these horrific conditions while they were going through the witch trial, which eventually ended up almost always in some form of fatal punishment. Uh, you know, and the men that they took out, they stoned them, right? And one of the things that they did is like put stones on them until they died, to see, how long it would take them to die, I guess,
yeah,
but
South Korea, I
these
believe this time was. Yeah.
yeah, they would beat them, or they would float a witch, and of course, in all that clothing, they didn't learn how to swim back then. They would drown and say, "Well, she's innocent. She drowned." If they knew how to swim, they torture her some more. You know. So basically, you would be coming out. You'd be black and blue. You might have gangrene already setting in from some of the torture you had. So that green skin thing, you know, that's kind of a holdover, probably from people having gangrene and being tortured, and black and blue and all kinds of different swollen colors. And the hats are very likely in our pop culture, partly because a lot of the Puritans hung their fellow women. And those hats are Welsh hats. They're also, as you said, the Chinese hats too. Various
Mhm.
different cultures had them. So, we they kind of morph, as we say, like these different things kind of blend together into pop culture, and you borrow a little bit here and there, and they all kind of blend, and eventually you have this iconic thing that becomes what we think is related to this. I personally like my witch's hat.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna lie, I've wanted to get one for myself, so it's like, yeah, it's there. But and it's funny because like the next point is how it actually went from being that negative icon to like actually being popular.
Hmm.
And you did mention the Quakers. Um, it was actually around that time and a little bit later. You know, there was that prejudice against the Quakers because I mean they were a little more radical. They actually were all about you know female equality. So, oh no, of course not. How are we going to have that? No. So, I mean, there was prejudice against them, and especially the women, and that was again widespread in England
And
and
the Puritans had
the
those.
Puritans. Exactly.
I'm saying when I'm
Um,
saying Quakers, I meant to say Puritans. The
well,
Puritans are the ones that did the hanging. So sorry about that.
um,
Sorry about that, Quakers.
yeah,
Quakers did some of it, though. I think
uh,
I not anymore. They're really not. They're good.
yeah, no. Um,
I want to say that I actually think I meant the Puritans, but the
well,
Puritans
no.
had it too. So
Yeah, yeah. The Puritans actually had their hat as well. Um, but their backlash against the community was cresting in the mid 18th century, and at around that time, that figure of the cone-headed spellweaver began to insinuate herself into what would become American folklore. Then you had so you had the witches in the peaked hats, and they started to appear actually on postcards from the American colonies. Um, and that's around the time that you have these new icons that have kind of sort of been forgotten over time. But you have legendary figures like Mother Goose
Hmm.
and La Befana, who's an Italian mother deranged by the death of her infant, said to fly through the night air, delivering gifts to children. So even though she's, yeah, she's deranged by the death of her infant. Also another category that unfortunately women are slapped with. It's like, okay, oh, she must be deranged for some reason, so oh, she must be a witch. Blah blah blah. Absolutely hate that. But anyways, you have this character who's this Italian mother. She's said to fly through the air, but instead of harming children, she's actually bringing them gifts.
Hmm.
Um, but she also acquired that pointy hat. And then, yeah, going back to the witch trials, witnesses reported seeing the devil, a large black man with a high-crowned hat. Later, Victorian era storybooks, they further developed the theme. So over time, um, as a Quaker, well, the Quakers had their hats as well. Everybody had their unique hats at the time. Those grew out of style, but they somehow remained associated with witches. So actually, the first one that we see depicted in her famous pointy hat is from a woodcut that's dated to around 1720, um, long after the Quaker hats were already gone. So, and that was the point where it was an era when the witch hunts and superstitions were beginning to fade. The Enlightenment was right around the corner, and mass media depictions of the witch were becoming more fantastical rather than warnings of a real threat. So that is when we became, um, well, to quote Tolkien, legend became myth. So we kind of stepped into the mythical side, and from here on out, the English vision of a witch spread and gained traction. And as all cultural images do, this version of the witch spread. In literature, the conical hat continued to mark deceivers, tricksters, and mischief makers, including heretics, ogres, dwarves, all of that. Um, but there's one more theory that we didn't touch on. I personally like this one. It concerns the persecution and discrimination against female independence. I don't like that part, but it is the British alewives. These were ladies who produced craft beer, which
Oh
they
yeah,
sold themselves. They
yeah.
sold themselves. They sold the beer on the street corners. They wore the high pointed hat, perhaps to attract attention and make their sales point recognizable. And the men who were in control of the beer trade, but unfortunately not in control of their fragile male ego, um, they began to accuse these women of adulterating beer with herbs or diluting it. Which, yeah, of course, you have to make the beer. Um, you have to put something in it. So, the barley and hops. So, but they were accused of adding extra things to it, diluting it with other magical liquids. Hence, the alewives' hats became associated with witchcraft. So,
Well, we
um,
just wanted you to feel good, you know?
yeah. So, I mean,
A little
and
beer.
so, so even though like a lot of us like don't actually wear the stereotypical hats, we don't put on flowing garments either, although certain rituals are associated with like color coded robes. Still that hat holds special significance for some Wiccans who see it as a visual representation of the cone of power that they draw on for their spells. So, moving on from the hat though, it's uh I do want to touch a little bit on the green skin one more time. Um, and technology allowed for new ways to tell stories. And when Hollywood came around, and they called upon L. Frank Baum and his illustrators, who depict the again the Wicked Witch of the West,
Hmm.
um, with that conical hat. Uh, when it was written in 1900, and when MGM put the witch on the screen, of course she had that pointy hat.
Hmm.
And the costume designer made it fabulous and fashionable, though. Just like the look of the witches in 1720 relied on outdated fashions, so too the elements of Margaret Hamilton's Wicked Witch uh, rely on fashions that were several decades out of style. That is why she looks the way that she looks. So she's behind. Um,
Yep.
the and then the green skin. It is actually a relatively new incarnation. So it doesn't fully go back to what we were thinking it does. Um, while the evil witch is considered a cultural narrative, and that dates back millennia, the green skin dates precisely back to only 1939 and the film. So,
But they were
but
seen as hags
right, right.
and beaten up.
Um, Now, I do want to talk about that, but I'm like my mouth is ready to talk about that the whole experience with Margaret Hamilton, but I do want to save that for 2 weeks from now. Um, Now Roald Dahl, since we're still talking about the literature, pointed out a witch is always a woman. There's no such thing as a male witch. Hmm. I guess he must be doing something wrong, but okay.
And
Um,
they get called warlocks, and that's really not actually correct.
I honestly I'm not usually aggressive. If I do get called that, I probably will slap the person upside the head, just
Mm.
lightly, not causing
Good thing you're over there.
exactly.
But I didn't call you that.
Um, so uh, according to Jess Bergman, over at the Literary Hub, witches are women whose embodiment of femininity in some ways transgresses society's adopted boundaries.
Mm.
They're just too old, they're too powerful, too sexually aggressive, too vain, too undesirable.
Vain.
Um, I call bullshit on all of that, um, but okay. So before getting on that soapbox, let's have a look at some of the iconic ones. Now, Gwen, you had mentioned Cersei as at least I think you did.
I did.
The,
And I
the Enchantress.
and I know you researched Cersei. I have this feeling. I can feel it.
Well, she has the power, according to Homer's The Odyssey. She does have the power to remove someone's manhood with her wiles, and I have heard a number of stories of people actually wishing they could, with good reason. In certain traditions, she is the daughter of Hecate, but most of the time she is said to be the child of
Two
Tethys, the
words,
sun god.
Lorena Bobbitt.
There you go.
Ooh,
She's best known
convenient
for
Sorry.
right. Yeah, she's best known for the part that she played in the Odyssey, where Odysseus and his men land on her island. She provides a meal to the crew, which transforms them into swine while they consume it.
Mm.
Um, Luckily for Odysseus, he had an herb which renders him immune, and he is able to force her to promise to not take his manhood. The two of them become lovers, despite the fact that he has a loyal wife at home. Maybe she should have taken his manhood after all. That could only be fair. Um, And again, it's an irony that Circe becomes the devil woman while poor Odysseus is her hapless victim, an early example of the witch being the woman who the man cannot resist. Um, so that's who Circe is. And then the weird sisters. Um,
The Sibyls.
yes, sorry, the weird sisters from Macbeth.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Okay.
yeah, the ones that they resemble the fates of Greek mythology.
Three Fates, yeah.
Um,
There's a number of three sisters. There's
right.
three Sibyls. There's the ones that share the eye,
Hmm.
and there's a number of them through various. Yeah.
Well, it's and what's interesting is that they are kind of the ones that kind of really get that story going, and as far as like they know, uh, well, rather like the fates of the Greek mythology, uh, they're able to spin the threads that determine how long a mortal life would be and how much suffering like you would experience, how they would die. And I mean, these sisters in the play, I mean, they know as much, and they give the title character some information without giving him a full on explanation.
Mhm.
Um, and that's his downfall. He thinks that he knows or that he fully understands the prophecies. Obviously, he doesn't. So, um,
There's a there's Shakespeare always had the kind of the tragic. He had comedies and he had tragedies, and any character that got kind of out of balance, he would kind of push him down. And therein lies the moral lessons, right? So, and he always had a villain, and the
sure.
villains always led people astray. From Iago on down the line.
Right.
So
Um, and then there's also Morgan Le Fay. Morgan Le Fay now hopping over to the Arthurian legends.
hmm
Um, she's another character who's been transformed dramatically down through the centuries. She's believed to be derived from the Welsh goddess figure Modron.
hmm
Uh, and I apologize if I'm getting that name wrong. Um, she's also developed into being the daughter of Arthur's mother, Igraine, via her first marriage. So they're step siblings. Um, she just kind of goes through several different incarnations, and if I remember correctly, she is also the one credited with giving Arthur Excalibur. So she's kind of linked with that lady in the lake.
I don't think I think she's probably not the Lady of the Lake, just from,
Okay.
but I, but those legends all kind of blend in. Remember that
Yeah.
my name Gwyneth is I could have been the wife and or the sister of Merlin.
Mhm.
That name goes back that far. So, these things, they all kind of hit a point where they don't really know the full story, and they didn't get necessarily written down for a few centuries after that. So then you go back to the Wild Man, which was Merlin, and he was considered a wizard,
Mhm.
which is the male version in that genre of a witch, and not necessarily any more powerful.
Right.
Maybe not any less powerful too.
Although, well, I don't. What kind of bothers me about that, about the suspicion of male involvement in in the craft, is the fact that if you look at it, pretty much across the board, you have Merlin, you have even the wizards in the Lord of the Rings. It's like every time that you have a woman with these powers, she's always considered the evil one. When you have the man with the powers, he's always considered part of the line of heroes. That has never ever jived with me at all.
Of
Uh,
course, in the Hobbit series, there was the other wizard that was bad, and there were a number of very powerful fairies and elves that were very magical, that were women, that also lent their magic to the good side. So, of all the sort of stories that we have going now, that one's one of the more balanced ones, even though the heroes are all the little.
That
the-
that is true.
there's some balance in that. So
That is true because they do kind of they do always bend to the advice of Galadriel.
mhm.
They actually do, even though they are on some level their peers. Like whenever she speaks, it's like okay, she's the one that they're going to listen to. So
Although
that
there is a good bit of testosterone in the hero characters.
oh
So
yeah,
I'm gonna
yes,
say it, even though they're little things, with big feet, they're all boys, they don't take the girls out on that quest, do they? No. Mm-mm.
no, yeah, unfortunately not. So um, then you have like the other ones, and I'm not really gonna touch a whole lot on this particular family, but the Mayfair witches. The
Yeah,
Mayfair
I
witches
haven't watched the most recent one, so go easy there.
yeah. No, I mean it's kind of interesting that overall it's I mean you have this family of witches, Mayfairs who even though they're powerful, they're still kind of tortured by this one male demon. That's
Mhm.
like that's and I mean I know Anne Rice always has to like add like Shakespeare, she always has to add that tragedy, right?
Yeah,
I
she
mean,
does the tragedy stuff pretty. She's there with it, for
yeah,
sure.
she is. Um, and then getting back to Elphaba, which she seems like she's been the most prominent, our wicked, our so-called wicked witch. And I say that because I mean I really do want to cover the fact that the story of Wicked really changes things around. It gives us a better understanding of who this supposed wicked witch is. And thanks to our former garage goblin, I've really been drawn into it. Uh, I just love the fact that she is more than what she was portrayed as. So, but again, we will talk about that when we do the movie side. Um, so I did uh kind of want to go into some of the most uh, mainstream ones, and that is the witches in my realm, which is the comic book ones.
Darn it! I thought you
Um,
were going to go into the Witches of Eastwick.
that'll be
That'll
two
be nice.
weeks from now when we do the movie side. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came across that. I'm like, okay, yeah, we got to talk about that. We got to talk about that.
You.
Um, Practical Magic, Bewitched.
Be with.
Um, what's that other movie? Book Bell and I can't remember the
Broomsticks.
Bed Dobbins Broomsticks would be another one. Mary Poppins actually can be considered a witch.
Oh yeah, she was definitely
Absolutely.
a witch. 'Cause if she'd have been a fairy, she'd have taken the kids with her, and you'd
Yeah.
have a changeling out there.
So,
Brought back the changeling. So she was
um,
definitely in that magical realm.
yeah. Although I mean, she was always so like really proper and prim. But I mean, you knew she did what she did, and the kids were always like questioning, like, did we actually experience that or did we not? But I mean, yeah, there was so much for that. Nanny McPhee, same thing.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I do want to get into those when we talk about the Hollywood witches. Um, in the realm of comics, though, I didn't really know this one, but she became my hero about 2 hours before we started this. That's the comic strip character Broomhilda.
Oh, I love Broomhilda. I haven't even thought of Broomhilda for a long time, but Broomhilda was great.
She was. Um,
Broomhilda.
so yeah, so she was created by cartoonist Russell Myers, um, and she appeared in newspapers on April 19th. 1970.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you'll remember this because it seems like they kind of did away with this, but at the very beginning, she was this 1,500-year-old beer guzzling, man crazy, cigar smoking, chubby witch with like no logic. And I read some of the strips, and it's yeah, there you go. Yes,
That's Broomhilda. And
that is
she
her.
was
Yes,
so funny. We loved Broomhilda. And she just had all kinds of fun little things that she'd do, you
yeah.
know?
Um, well, that actually, and it just surprised me even more that I hadn't really,
This is
thought about it as
probably the
a part of it.
most common one that
Yes.
that was like that's see, that was Broomhilda. I have forgotten about Broomhilda. I used to read it religiously in a good way. Broomhilda. Where's
Well,
I
as
used to read the comics every day. And then what really happened is these things just kind of stopped being carried by newspapers because the newspapers kind of went away.
well,
But
here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that as of May 2024, Russell Myers was given a Guinness World Record for the longest running daily cartoon strip for Brunhilde.
I did not know
So
that.
somehow she's still running.
But of course,
Um,
none of us gets the newspaper anymore. But there she
yeah,
is. I had no
she
idea.
is. She's still there.
Yeah, long enough to
This
start
next
trying to
one.
find her.
So that's Broomhilda. This next one, our token Baba Yaga can have some appreciation for, and that's Magica Dispel. I wonder if she remembers who that is.
I don't remember who that is.
Well, Magica Dispel, Magica being Italian for magical, is a cartoon character created in 1961 by Karl Barks for the Duck universe. An Italian sorceress, she constantly attempts to steal Scrooge McDuck's number one dime. So she was a prominent character in DuckTales. Um,
She is. Now I remember her.
so
Nothing
that's
had to
the one. That's
spell.
her.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep. The Donald.
Um,
She was in the Donald Duck stuff.
yes.
Dewey Duck.
So yeah, she was always trying to steal Scrooge's number one dime, which she believes will play a vital role in magically obtaining the same fabulous wealth of its owner. So, once again, she is that one who is seeking power.
This is the one of the classic ones of her. So
Yes.
get it back into. So I do remember Magic at the Spot. I just didn't remember the name. Didn't ring a bell. But Broomhilda, I loved Broomhilda. Broomhilda was
Well,
awesome.
I also have another one that I think we all love and have appreciation for, and that's Grandmama Adams
Oh,
from the Adams family, who is in fact an aged witch who concocts potions and spells and dabbles in fortune telling and knife throwing. Yes, that is absolutely her.
classic.
Yes.
See,
Um.
she was hysterical.
Oh, she was. She was.
And
Um.
they did have this what's her name? I can't think of her name. Play her more recently, but
Mhm.
the classic was that. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see if I can more
There's
images.
and so it's interesting that this bit of information kind of came up because not too long ago, um, Baba Yaga and I were actually talking about it and like discussing is she the mother of Gomez or is she the mother of Morticia? Um, and apparently across various adaptations, the exact familiar relationship it actually shifts. So sometimes she's portrayed.
So if I can get
Yes.
this in here where the light isn't so good on this. Okay, so
So
let me see.
sometimes
Or
she's
let me put off this other. I'm just gonna turn off that one to see if it oh it doesn't really do any good. But you can see
that's
she
right.
shifts overall.
Yeah.
She does. She shifts. And the most
So
recent one,
sometimes,
she's very put together, you know.
oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes she is portrayed as Gomez's mother, but
Hmm.
sometimes she is uh, Morticia's mother. So it depends on which variation, which adaptation you're actually reading or following. However, if you follow the origin story of Morticia and her sister Ophelia, their maiden name was Frump. So if Grandmama is of the name Adams, then she has to be the mother of Gomez. So that kind of
And Gomez used to be very suave and debonair. The more recent one, he's not as suave and debonair.
true, but the more recent one actually has the look and actual kind of character of the original comic
That's
strips.
true.
So
That's
yeah,
true.
it took me a while to kind of get used to it, but I'm like, oh, okay, that's what they were doing. So
Yeah, they went with the original, you know.
yeah. Um.
Used to, I loved that show also, but yeah, it
Oh
was
yeah.
just fun. Very much fun. Yeah.
So looking at the going a little bit nerdier, we have uh DC Comics and Papa Midnight. So if anybody knows the movie Constantine with what's his name, Keanu Reeves, you have Jaimin Hansu's character who portrays one variation of Papa Midnight, and this is one character who actually is more of like a voodoo or hoodoo priest. But he's pretty prominent in that storyline. That's him.
There you
That
go.
is Papa Midnight. Yes.
It's just easier to pull them up on like a little phony here. But yeah, and he's played this way. This is
Jaimin Hansu. Yep. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So and he's sort of a voodoo kind of dude.
Exactly. Right.
Another
Um,
way that he's portrayed is like this with a very suave.
which
Again,
honestly, I think that might have been like a better look for the film, but yeah, they did what they did. So
they do what they
uh,
do.
over on the, over on the Marvel side, you do have a couple of witches that show up, and these are ones that are kind of bordering between the heroes and the villains. You have one who actually is the first hero, Nico Minoru. She's one of the few Japanese American superhero and team leaders. She's also been described as one of Marvel's most notable and powerful LGBT female heroes. That is her.
There we go.
Um, and so she's the child of two of the superpowered villains calling themselves the Pride. She's one of the runaways. And in her case, she is the daughter of dark wizards. Now, upon
She's got some.
finding out, she runs away with a group of friends and later discovers that she's inherited her parents' magical aptitude. She
Hmm.
is, in fact, a sorceress, like her parents and great grandmother, and can cast nearly any spell imaginable with the staff. Uh, the staff of one, which she carries, responds to verbal commands, but can only respond to any given spell once. If she attempts to cast the same spell twice, the results have unforeseen consequences. Now, to summon the staff itself, she has to bleed, as all magic comes with a cost. So, um, she's a pretty interesting character. Then you have, of course, the one who's right here on my shirt here. This Wanda Maximoff. You have the Scarlet Witch.
Okay.
Um,
Do you want me to? I can pull up the Scarlet Wish. Let's see here.
so the thing with her is she actually is one of the most powerful characters. Um, being able to warp reality. She can cast a spell. She can cast energy. Thank you. Yes.
Hmm.
Energy manipulation, teleportation. I think that's actually her son. Who can do that? Telekinesis, yes. Telepathy, mental manipulation, yes. Flight, healing, um, transmutation, astral projection, clairvoyance, and precognition. So she has, even though she is what's considered to be a
This is
mutant,
another one of her.
yes, even though
So
she is considered a mutant in the storyline, um, what I love about the characteristics in this particular character is that she does have very real um, abilities, or very real uh, rather characteristics that are based on our actual practice. So, um, and then of course we have her son, who basically inherits all of all of her powers, and that's Wiccan.
his
And
name is.
lastly, I really want to finish with this one, and that's one that we all know, all three of us, from watching Agatha all along, and that's Agatha Harkness.
Okay, this is the Wiccan one, I think. That's the
Yep,
character.
that is him. Mhm.
And then the other one is which one?
Agatha Harkness.
That sounds familiar. I know I've heard of.
You have one who is basically her. I mean, Catherine Hahn played an amazing version of her. It's quite different from her actual origins and her appearance in the books. So she's very much the crone. Now that's
Psychic.
Wanda.
Is that's Wanda?
Yeah. Um, Catherine Hahn in
Oh, no, that's the Scarlet Witch. Sorry. Okay, hold
yes.
on here. I'm trying to hit the right thing. The Harkness. There we go. Okay. Images.
Right.
Here we go. Oh yeah, I remember her.
Hmm.
Yeah, but she comes out differently in the
In
stories,
the
and
show. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
in the show, this is.
yes, that's her. So, so we
You
can
couldn't have
see
a really old
the
lady trying to play that cute little cat. You know, well, all the cats would go there, not just one. You know, it's the old lady cat rule.
so we can see going back through the ages and through the literature, how they've actually changed so much from
That's a later version, I think, of the Agatha Harkness. It is.
okay,
So they aged her backwards after the movie
right.
came out, probably.
So we can see how it's actually really progressed, and instead of being the stereotypical green skin, wearing the hats, being that outsider. Well, you can still be an outsider, but you still uh, can see that difference where you've gone away from being this supposed Hagrid looking character to now being very strong, very powerful, very you know, uh very attractive.
I definitely think that a big portion of the hag image of the hag, and possibly the inspiration for the green skin were probably accounts of what people looked like coming out of those
Hmm.
trials. And maybe, maybe the green skin, was mostly made popular in and I think there's a lot of truth in that with the Wizard of Oz.
Hmm.
But for sure the accounts of the hag were very, 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 very popular before that, because no doubt once you torture somebody, they become a hag. You want to
Oh,
see a swollen face, there it is. It's kind of try to spend a few weeks inside a dungeon. It isn't pretty.
exactly. You're not going to look proper
You're not
prim.
gonna
You're not going
look
to look
okay
like you have a
afterwards. You may never look okay again, in fact. That's if you survive it.
yeah.
So torture does that to you. Go figure.
Oh yeah. So well,
Crooked
hopefully this.
fingers, you know.
Yeah. hopefully this cast hasn't been torturous to anybody. Thanks for sticking with us.
We're
But
gonna
that
a
is
couple more things, one more little thing, two more little things,
yes,
right?
yes.
So the one of the things that our garage goblin Baba Yaga wanted to talk about was bloodstone, and
Yes. Our stone of the week.
bloodstone is our stone of the week. I did not pull up a picture. See how it looks like the stone has little spots of stuff in it, kind of orangey. It looks like it's bleeding. So bloodstone is a very good stone for for cleaning your blood. It's a healer. It's got it's supposed to help banish evil. It's supposed to help you with intuition and creativity. And it is something that is supposed to be good for your blood. Now, let's see if I can do this. Let me just see if I can pull up some images off of my website, which is, let's see here. Hold on, if I could do a. What I want to do is I want to do a little tiny screenshot here of my computer screen in the background, because we do have quite a lot of stuff with bloodstone, and let me see if I can pull it up here. I'm going to add it in. Let's see here. Image file. Got to get it out of the downloads. Here it is. Open. Hopefully I pulled up the right one. Ha! I did. Yay. So this, so if you can see this, bloodstone it can have a lot more red to it. If it's a real purpley red and it looks like that, it might in fact be ruby zoisite, which is ruby in zoisite, and it can look quite similar to bloodstone. So that's one thing that we have. We're going to resume a sale on our website. Oopsie, let me get back to the screen. We're going to resume another sale. We'll start it towards the end of the month on the website, but so it'll go back down a little bit, probably 20%. So it should be pretty good. And basically, if you are thinking about using bloodstone, you can put it. It's a nice stone to wear because I think it's a kind of jasper. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. And you can wear it, anywhere you want. This one of the things that the Crystal Bible recommends is that you can put it in a bowl of water beside the bed to have a restful sleep, or you can tape it over your thymus. So, I mean, there's things you can do with it. And it is supposed to help warding off evil, and it's supposed to be calming. Bloodstone reminds me energetically of Unakite, in that it sort of has that kind of feel to it where it feels very balancing. I like it, and I am almost out of it at the store because it's that popular. So we had a little run on our things. So that's bloodstone for you. And if you want to buy it, AvalonVisionsProducts.com. We have some. You're helping small businesses.
Or better yet, if you guys are close enough, go down to the store.
Come on in.
You're going to walk out
We
with
don't have a whole lot left, but I've got one piece on my desk. I may put it up front, and it'll be charged up. Now, there is one other thing I'm thinking about doing, Joe, and I think this will interest you also.
Mhm.
Is I'm thinking of doing a 5 quick spell series, and doing one night a week at the shop, or one night a month, calling it Magical Thursdays or Magical Fridays or something. It's got to be a day I'm here for a couple hours. I'm kind of thinking about that. So if there's an interest, you watched it all the way through to this point, let me know. Kind of just like a little quick one, like not a long, lengthy one, just like a little quick. Ba-ba-doom, you do it, you light a candle, this is what you say, and hopefully it works.
Nice. I do like that idea. Yeah.
I kind of do too.
Yeah. So
we're thinking about
kick that around some, and
hopefully we'll have some guest lecturers at some point.
Yes, absolutely. So, All right, guys, that'll do it for tonight. Thank you. Next week we hit episode number 20. It's going to be our musical episode, so
Gonna be
we'll
fun.
see what we can do. It's going to be awesome. So thank you guys. Be safe out there. Uh, and we will see you guys next week.
You got it.